Hello friends, it's Dave here from SaveDex, and as you can see, I love Amiibo. I've been collecting them since they first arrived, and although I mostly keep them boxed now, there are plenty I have opened and made use of in the games. When they were first announced, it was at the time when Skylanders and Disney Infinity, they were coming up with figures left, right and centre. And I figured that if they made Nintendo themed ones, they'd come up with a similar game to that, where you buy the figures to use in the games. But that's not what we got. Instead, all of these figures have different uses depending on what game they're scanned into, assuming that that game has functionality. The most recent one being quite controversial, an expensive Zelda and Loftwing amiibo that gives you a fast travel option in Skyward Sword HD. Most people hated that a quality of life feature was locked behind a paywall like this, but my reaction was the opposite. I wasn't thinking, oh, this fantastic feature is locked behind an amiibo. I was thinking, this expensive amiibo, that's all it does. It is hard to consider what's a good use of amiibo and what's not. They have to strike a balance between it being a good use for the game, but not so good that people that don't have the amiibo are missing out. Or for people that just want to keep them boxed. I do not care what power-ups you give me, you are not coming out of there. So I am here to look at what I consider the top 5 best uses of amiibo in games. Although my number one reason would really be, they look nice on the shelf. But I'm actually going to look at what the functionality of the games is itself. I did a video a year and a half ago showing off my amiibo collection. If you want to see an updated collection video, let me know in the comments and make sure you're subscribed to not miss it. So let's take a look at the top 5 best uses of amiibo. Let's start at the beginning. Nintendo's 2014 E3 presentation kicked off with a bang and a smash and an epic showdown between Reggie and Iwata, which showed off the Amiibo Fighters as playable characters, as well as amiibo. What do they do in Smash 4 and Ultimate? Simply scan the figure in and that character becomes a fighter you can train. This is a neat little feature to have, and it apparently adopts a fighting style that can differ depending on how you train it. I've not noticed a difference, but I'll take their word for it. I collect amiibo just for the sake of collecting them, but it is always nice to scan my unboxed ones in and see what kind of fierce warrior they can become. Captain Toad was a fun little title, although quite short. Not being in Smash, Toad didn't get an amiibo until Mario Party 10 came along, and with it released the Super Mario line. The version I got came with this Mario amiibo, but one game mode required amiibo to play it. So I needed to get another amiibo so I could play 2-player with Tom Panda here, and the one that I opted for was the Toad amiibo. That Mario Party 10's extra mode, I don't think that's a good use of amiibo. One of the main modes displayed to you on the menu is locked behind an amiibo, and it should be available without the figures. But the reason I've opted for Toad was because scanning it into Captain Toad gave you an extra minigame where an 8-bit Toad was hidden somewhere on the stage, and you just had to find it. Only a small little thing, but worth trying if you already have the amiibo. The Zelda series has had some interesting amiibo functionality over the years, from the controversial Skyward Sword one I mentioned earlier, to the Link's Awakening one letting you save your dungeons onto this amiibo, which I've not actually tried because I've not actually opened this one, so yeah, put that one back. The regular Link amiibo I got with Smash has had plenty of use from me, from unlocking that spinner in Hyrule Warriors, or getting a Epona in Breath of the Wild. But speaking of Breath of the Wild, there's one thing you can do with it. In the remake of Twilight Princess on the Wii U, they released a Wolf Link and Midna amiibo. This activated an extra area called the Cave of Shadows. It's a gauntlet style area where you play as Wolf Link, taking on a series of trials, defeating waves of enemies. This hits the mark perfectly as being a neat extra feature if you have the amiibo, but not something that amiibo-less players will lament the loss of, as it's just a side mode and has no effect on the main game, which in itself has a similar area already. But what really sets this functionality apart is that when you beat the trials, you scan your amiibo again and it stores how many hearts you have. Take your copy of Breath of the Wild and scan Wolf Link in and boom, you have a wolf with you now, with the same number of hearts that was stored. It's a really nice feature this, giving you a bit of a helping hand, and it's nice to see Wolf Link in this game. When this was revealed, I thought to myself, this is how you do Amiibo. One figure that works across 2 different games. It's a nice bonus to have, but not so big that others will feel left out. What could top this, eh? Enter Super Mario 3D World's port on the Switch, which added a Bowser's Fury mode, an awesome, smaller collectible adventure that I fell in love with. The bigger gimmick of this mode is Fury Bowser himself, who periodically awakens and causes havoc. Breathing fire, making things fall, it makes navigating the world a lot harder, but he does have his uses, as some shines are hidden behind Fury blocks that only Bowser himself can smash, and when you find them, you have to wait around for him to wake up, which can take a long time. But if you happen to own a Bowser amiibo, then simply scan it in and he wakes up instantly. This is an amazing feature. People who don't have a Bowser amiibo can still happily 100% this game, but if you do have it, then it speeds things up and cuts down the waiting time. I know it's a quality of life feature that speeds up the game locked behind a paywall, but at least it's locked behind one that was cheaper than the Zelda one and wasn't specifically made for this game. It was an already existing amiibo that works in other games as well. And I feel functionality like this should keep getting added to new games with old amiibo, adding more value to those amiibo figures as time goes on. So what's the best use of amiibo I've ever seen? It's a feature that has been in quite a few games already and utilises a lot of amiibo. But not enough games have done this in my opinion, and the answer is simple. Costumes. Yoshi's Woolly World on Wii U. Most of the Smash figures can be scanned in and Yoshi will adopt the colours of that fighter. Mario Kart 8 can unlock Mii costumes based on other Nintendo characters and a few third parties too. The first Super Mario Maker had so many costumes for 8-bit Mario, which could be unlocked by beating the 100 Mario challenges, but you can unlock them quicker by scanning in an amiibo. Even Mario Odyssey lets you unlock a few costumes based on those characters. Why is this feature not used more? Costumes should be available in all Nintendo games, I say. I mean, it's a nice little bonus for those that happen to own all of these, but if people that don't collect them, they're not really missing out on anything. It doesn't change the gameplay at all. So come on Nintendo, include them more in your future titles. I mean, if Link could have costumes in Breath of the Wild 2 based on all of these amiibos, I can finally open up my Waluigi one.